And we are live. Welcome to Olivia's Stories, ladies and gentlemen. Story number 1. I got baited by my own husband, and now he is mad and angry just because I ended up doing exactly what he told me to do. Whatever happened to never biting more than you can chew? He thought I would chicken out so he could taunt me for as long as he wanted, but I refused, and now he is mad at me. He is trying to make life difficult for me, but it's not my fault that he decided to bring up a dar, and now he's the one that chickened out. I know that he's trying to dump me, and that's why I'm here on Reddit to ask you all if what I did was wrong. He has visited almost every single family member of mine to complain about me. Not once in any of his complaints did he state or agree that he had anything to do with my decision. He's just trying to play dumb and act like he didn't bait me into doing what I did. My name is Lupita, and I'm a 28-year-old African-American living in New Jersey. I work at a restaurant as a chef and baker. Unfortunately, I can't mention the name of the restaurant I work at. I'm married to a 32-year-old restaurant owner called Frederick. My husband is the owner of the restaurant I work at. I know it's a very weird setup, but unfortunately, I find myself in such a situation. I actually met Frederick at his restaurant, and I didn't even know he owned the restaurant. In case some people will try to make it seem like I married Frederick because he's a restaurant owner, let me just put it out there that I never had any of those intentions. I actually come from a well-to-do family, and my parents provided me with more than enough. I married out of love. It was never about the money for me. I just finished my internship before I met Frederick at the restaurant. I was literally just stopping by for lunch with my friends, and then he walked in. He had other workers, but that day, he casually strolled in and just walked up to the counter. My friends noticed I liked him immediately, and I didn't even try to hide it. By that time, I didn't even know he was the owner. I thought he was a regular customer. It was only a few days later, after that restaurant suddenly became my favorite restaurant because of him. Lal and I visited it almost every day, that I found out he owned it. We became friends and hit it off pretty quickly. That is just the story of how we met. But now I guess we're about to become worst enemies, lol. We got married 2 years after dating, and it was a very weird kind of wedding. If you ask me why, I'll just tell you that it was because my family and his family are not really the highest fans of each other. I don't even need to pretend, so I'll get straight to the point. I don't like his mother at all. That woman just picks at me every chance she gets, so I don't like her. She also seems to dislike me just as much as I dislike her, but we pretend to like each other at family functions when it's completely necessary. My father doesn't really like Frederick because, according to him, owning a restaurant is not a real job as far as you solely depend on your customers' turnout, which can change any time. But even though we have a rough family relationship, we loved each other too much to let our family get in the way, so that's how we ended up married. I've been married to Frederick for 3 years now, but we don't have a child together yet. If you ask me why, I'll just tell you it's because I'm not really ready to have children yet. It's my body and it's my choice. Frederick never had a problem with that, and he's been very supportive in that regard. I started working at his restaurant just 6 months after we got married. I used to work with my dad before, but I decided to work with Frederick instead because I knew that he was not comfortable with me being on my dad's payroll when the both of them are not really friends. I like working with my husband, and it started off as a weird experience, but I was able to get used to it. Now, I think I'm going to be jobless in the next few weeks, because I'm very certain that my husband and I are going to break up. Or, let me just put it this way, I'm very sure that Frederick is going to dump me. You all have waited enough, so let me tell you what's going on and how we got to this place we are currently at. Even though all through the beginning of this write-up, I've sounded like a stuck-up lady, I'm not like that at all. It's all talk and no action because I'm actually a very conservative person. I'm not wild and I don't explore things every day. I'm just very opinionated, and I talk about my opinions, but I never really speak about it. My husband knows I'm a talkative, and I am very active at home, but not in the public space. I used to be that girl that likes to explore before, but I grew out of it before I got married. My conservative nature and nonchalantness has grown bigger over the past few years, and my husband has noticed too. He's always asking me why I suddenly stopped attending parties with him and whatnot. Sometimes, Frederick accused me of being too shy. I'm not shy, and it's far from it. I always tell him that, but he never believes me. I know myself, and I know that one reason that I don't do any wild stuff anymore is because I feel like I should act differently since I'm married and that I shouldn't really let myself get out of character. Another reason is because I'm a rebellious child, and I've always been a rebellious child. I've not done any wild things in the past, but my parents always taunt me and tell me that I like to do the opposite of what I'm told. That's why they believe I rebelled against them by marrying Frederick. I kind of just grew out of my rebellious phase and decided to be more calm and put together. I've tried to explain this to my husband several times, but he just doesn't get it. Our discussions about the way I was shy in public always gets me annoyed, and that's because he always takes it too far. If I say he takes it too far, then that's because it's the truth. I have a very big sense of humor, so anything that annoys me is really annoying, Lowell. Frederick suddenly became this guy that's interested in clubs and nights out. He wasn't like that while we dated and for the early years of our marriage. I think the issue is that both of us just turned into the exact opposite of ourselves. I used to think that was a good thing because we helped each other find ourselves, but I guess that's a very bad thing. Frederick began to invite me to clubs that he was invited to. At first, I didn't care about attending any of those clubs, but then I realized that there was every possibility of me getting cheated on if I just let my husband go to nightclubs alone. I wanted to blend in and be the Gen Z wife, so I thought, why not? We don't have children yet, so going to clubs all night wasn't a big deal. But I didn't expect Frederick to actually expect me to participate in the clubbing. My main reason for going was to keep an eye on him and make sure that he wasn't doing anything absurd. I also wanted to support my husband and engage in activities with him because I've been told that's what supportive partners do. That's how I found myself in the absurd situation that's going to cause our marriage now. Explore. That word means a lot more than it should me. Frederick wanted us to explore, and now we're exploring the prospects of getting divorced. Please forgive me, guys, if you find my sense of humor too annoying. I just can't help it. I'm at the verge of getting divorced, and I still can't help but make jokes even as I write this. I have to be fast because my mom has invited me to the house to ask my side of the story. Apparently, Frederick had also visited my parents, and now they want to hear from me first. Thankfully, my dad is not a big fan of Frederick, and he doesn't associate with him a lot, so that means he'll obviously believe me before he even gives Frederick a chance to speak. Now let's get back to what we're saying. So Frederick and I decided to go to the parties together, but he had a problem with me not dancing like the rest of the girls. I told him I'm not ready for that kind of fun yet, and I tried to make him understand that it would not be proper for me to act that way in front of his friends. He never listened to me at all. Frederick owns a restaurant, but he doesn't need to be present every day. Eek his wife, so I don't need to report to work every day. So, we can party all night if we want. And that's what we started doing. I just followed him for a show and I never got involved. Frederick complained at first, but as time went on, he stopped. One of the things I like about him is his ability to listen to me and give up when he notices that I'm not really into something. I always liked that about him, her. Recently, it seems like he's decided to do the exact opposite of what he used to do before. Initially, it was just a joke between us. It was never anything serious, and we always just joked about it. Sometimes the joke gets to me, and I get really frustrated. I mean, I'm a wife, so I obviously get affected when my husband compares to other women. No woman would like that, and even though I act very nonchalant and hardcore, I'm not that nonchalant. I always laughed it off, but began to get to me, and then I started resenting the jokes he made. At some point, I needed to get everything off my chest, so I decided to speak to one of my sisters about it. I have 3 sisters and a stepbrother. My sisters and I are very close, and they are all married. I'm the firstborn girl, but I got married last. I wonder why, Lowell. I'm closer to Nadia, my immediate younger sister, and so I spoke to her about my condition with Frederick. We initially laughed about it because it was a very weird and unlikely situation, but as time went on, I realized that speaking to my sister about it made me realize that I might have been overacting. So, I decided to calm down and just give it a try. I promised myself to make Frederick see my point of view without causing a bridge between us. My sister also advised me not to say no the next time he asked. I also wanted to give Frederick a taste of his medicine by showing him that I'm just respecting him by not engaging his taunts. It was a joke to us, and my sister and I never took it seriously. But I guess not, the situation is extremely serious. 3 weeks ago, my husband got invited to his best friend's bachelor party. My husband decided that it would be nice to invite me too, and I agreed without a single thought. It was 2 days after agreeing that I realized that I might have made the wrong choice. I realized that the bachelor party was something the groom had organized for the guts, but he gave them permission to invite their partners if they wanted. I heard that his reason was because he didn't want any of his friends' wives accusing him of making their husbands do crazy things. In other words, he didn't want to be the cause of anyone's broken marriage. The bride also organized her own bachelor party or bridal shower. Whatever it is called, I don't really know. But I don't really know the bride, and I'm not close to her, so I thought it was best to attend the groom's bachelor party, since he's the one I'm close to. The party was 2 weeks ago, and I got ready for it for days. The party took place at a hotel just a few minutes' drive away from our house, so there was no reason for us to travel anywhere. I heard it was a customer-themed party, so I decided to go as my favorite character in The Queen's Gambit. I had no particular reason for going as a movie character. I just wanted to be different. My husband went as something I'm not really familiar with, and I don't remember who he tried to emulate. Anyway, we got dressed and got ready for the party quite early. I didn't plan on wearing a mask, and I didn't even buy one because I didn't believe that it would look good on my dress. I actually dyed my hair red just because I wanted to get into the character quite well. The only difference was that I didn't curl or try to make it look like any of those royal-themed ones. I just left his street and tied it into a high ponytail. When we arrived at the party, I immediately knew that I had made the wrong decision. Everything was wild, and a lot of things were going on all at once. I couldn't believe that a person that planned to get married the next day was throwing something so controversial. I, for one, was very happy that I didn't let Frederick go alone. It would have really made me quite angry if he came back and showed me the pictures and videos of the wild party he attended alone. To all the girls out there, both single and married or in a relationship, never let your man or future man go to a bachelor's party alone. He needs supervision because the thing that goes on at bachelor parties nowadays, just too chaotic and extra. I'm not in a position to give advice because I am currently going through the consequences of entertaining a bachelor's party. But I guess it is easier to advise other people, don't you think? So let me get back to the main point now. When we attended the party, I realized that there were actually masks there and it was compulsory for us to wear them. I've seen many such things like that in movies, and I knew it never ended well. I told my husband we shouldn't do it because it would be hard to recognize each other, but he told me it would be disrespectful to the HOs if we refused to follow the protocol. So, he took one of the lighters that we arranged on the table I assumed was dedicated to people interested in smoking, and then he used it to burn the edges of our masks so it would be easier for us to recognize each other. He didn't want to burn mine at first because he stated that it wouldn't be hard to locate me since I was literally the only one wearing the type of fustum I chose. Yes, guys, I ended up being as different as I anticipated I'd be. His was important because the kind of costume he wore was similar to most of the ones that were worn by other people. I knew that even with the burnt masks, I'd still find it hard to locate him. I was worried about that at first, but Frederick assured me that we wouldn't even need to look for each other, because we would be standing together all through. That calmed me down a little, and then I decided to relax and just have fun, even though I was completely sure that partying in the midst of sweaty people was not my thing. 7% of the people in attendance at that bachelor party were men, and that spooked me out at the beginning. Even though the groom told his married male friends to bring their partners to the party, it was still male-dominated because some of them didn't care to invite their partners or not. Many of his friends were married. I don't know which one it was, but I just know that I saw more men with short, low-cut hair than I saw women with their long hair. Or maybe I just couldn't tell their genders because everyone was wearing a mask and costume. I don't really know. I held on tight to Frederick at first, but I later let go of him and let him interact with his friends. He took off his mask to interact with his friends, but I kept kind on. I actually started having fun at the party, and it was very shocking to me. I didn't even have to dance or interact to have fun. I just sat and watched how crazy people can be. Most times my mouth was left open because of how much weird stuff I saw. I didn't even care that I was one of the very few people that just sat down and observed everything. I didn't have a problem with that because I was just fine observing. It was even better that I could not see their faces and they could not see that I was staring. I still remember everything and the loud music that almost made me deaf. I had fun at the beginning and I can't deny it. Well, only at the beginning because the party didn't even go well for me at all. At some point into the party, the groom grabbed a I didn't even know was there and made an announcement. He said there was going to be a game of truth or dare at the party, and he needed volunteers. Let me just tell you guys that while the groom was making the announcement, I just sat down and munched on the snacks I was served and sipped on my drink, even though I didn't even know what was mixed inside. I didn't even think of being a participant, and it never crossed my mind that I would need to participate in something like that. I was initially just excited to watch what everyone would do, and I was racking my brain to think of the possible games he would make people play. That's why I actually got surprised when Frederick came to my side and asked me to go volunteer and play the truth or dare game. I knew it was Frederick because I had to remove his mask and do a double take even after I saw the burnt edges on the mask. I actually asked him if he was crazy because I knew that I was not going to do what he was asking me to do. I'd not heard of any husband that would give his wife permission to volunteer for a truth or dare game when he knew what kind of stuff went on in such games. Frederick actually told me he was serious and that he really wanted me to participate in the game. I boldly told him no because it was not something I was interested in at all. He pulled me to the side and decided to taunt me. He asked me if it was wrong for him as a man to want his woman to do something crazy. He started pointing to the wives of his friends and how some of them were already standing with the groom and volunteering to play the game. I told him I was different and that I would never play a truth or dare game with strangers. He didn't budge or try to change his words. He decided to date me to go volunteer, or else he'd know that I was trying to chicken out and that I was just looking for an excuse to get on his nerves. Well, after hearing that from my own husband, I didn't think twice before deciding to give him a taste of his medicine. I remembered the discussion I had with my sisters and how she always encouraged me never to give him a reason to compare me with other women. I didn't want to do it, but just because I was tired of constantly getting compared and taunted, I decided to do it. I also wanted to show him that just because I refused to do certain things and respect his name didn't mean that I was a fool. I asked him to give me $200 before going in $300 when I finished. It was my only condition for getting into the game. He agreed, but made sure he told me just how much he didn't believe that I'd actually play the game. I left him standing alone and went to join the people that were volunteering to play the game. My husband kept giving me thumbs up even before the hand started, but I didn't even care to answer him. I was very angry, and I am still angry. It just made very little sense to me that he wasn't even appreciating the fact that I wanted to be faithful to him and not try to disrespect him or cross boundaries. Any man in his shoes would have been very happy to have a wife whose character and morals didn't contradict with the boundaries that a marriage was supposed to have. He didn't know that I could be extra if I wanted to and that I just didn't want to. At that point, I already had everything to the extreme and I was not ready to have more of it. All I wanted to do was just put an end to his unnecessary comparisons and baits. A part of me also wanted to teach him a big lesson, and now that I've seen what my actions are making him do, I'm quite certain that I really did teach him a very big lesson. The game had been open to both the men and the women, and everyone had been open to play the game. But for some reason, the men dominated the game, and my guess was because the men's population had outdid the one of the women. We were 15 in total that volunteered to play the game, and we were divided into 5 groups with 3 people in each team. My team had 2 men, and I was the only woman. I'm the team. I'd never seen such a truth or dare game where the players were divided into teams, but that was the first time I saw something like that. We all had our masks on as required by the host. At first, everyone just chose the truth because they were scared of being given a very controversial game to play. But the rules were changed and dare was very compulsory. At first, my team members were kind enough to play the game for me and take drinks on my behalf, but it was soon my turn and I could not hide any longer. I was dared to kiss one of the men in another team. It wasn't just any type of kids. It was meant to be a French kiss, and there was no getting out of it. Since my team members had helped me most of the game, I had to do it. I had the choice of taking a drink, but I refused. I didn't want to take a drink because at that moment, I was extremely angry at Frederick. I just hated everything he did to me, and I decided to kiss the guy in front of me. Yes, I did what I did. I gave him a French kiss, and that was it. I didn't even give it a second thought because I wanted to let loose, like you told me to let loose. He has been disturbing me so much, and that was why I decided to give him a taste of his medicine. After I did what I did, I looked up, and I saw my husband without his mask. He was very angry as he looked at me, and I could tell that he had been furious that I did not refuse the dare. His friend was even talking to him, but he didn't bother to answer his friend. He just walked out of the party furiously. I didn't even try to run after him. I just removed my mask and rolled my eyes. His friends recognized me as his wife, and they were also surprised that I had taken the dare. Some of them could not even hide the shock on their faces. I don't know, got to explain that feeling to you guys because it was just a lot. I didn't have to run after Frederick to know that he had been angry after what I did. I knew that he was very furious with my actions and he wanted to react by just walking out. I felt very victorious because I gave him the taste of the medicine he had been giving me. How could a person be as stupid as Frederick was? What did he think I would do when he kept daring me to go and play a game of truth or dare? Did he expect me to just stand and watch him trample all over me? Who bites their wife and then expects them to be as innocent as a clear water? Well, guys, I didn't give him that opportunity and I did what I did. Do I regret it? No. I don't regret it because if I was the one telling my husband to go play a game of truth or dare, society will accuse me of asking him to cheat on me. I kissed a stranger and I did so with my head up high. I left the party only after it ended. I stayed back and had enough drinks and food. If I kept being asked to let loose, it was only time till I actually let loose. His friends kept walking up to me and asking where he was. I don't think there's anyone there who didn't know about what happened between me and Frederick that night. The fact that he was no longer in the room after I kissed a guy just explained everything that happened between us. They kept meeting me and urging me to go look for him. I didn't bother looking for him because it did not make sense that he suddenly chickened out after dating me not to chicken out. There are many parties I'd wanted to walk out on, but I refused just because I accompanied him. But he wanted to take things extra and I complied. I later discovered that Frederick left in his car about an hour before I left the party. One of his friends offered to drop me off, but I refused and just took a cab. When I got to the house, I came to the house. I came home to trouble, literally. Frederick just started arguing immediately. I dropped key purse on the table. He asked me in his exact words, "How dare you kiss another guy while I was in the room? How dare you even kiss another guy?" Of course, I didn't keep quiet and just look at him like they do. I'm those daily soaps. I spoke up for myself and told him how he literally frustrated me and led to do what I did. The action was done by me, but everything that led to it was my husband's fault, and I told him that straight to his face. He accused me of cheating on him and disrespecting him in his friends present, and he told me that I had been looking for an excuse to cheat on him. I asked him what he was really expecting when he baited me to go play a truth or dare game at a bachelor's party with adults. I had to ask him if he expected me to go there and play Cinderella. Frederick kept looking for excuses that question my character and paint me out as a bad person, but I refused. Frederick told me he was just not ready to accept my reasons for kissing another guy in his presence, and I told him that I was not ready to accept his reasons for baiting his wife to a truth or dare game. I didn't apologize because I didn't think that he deserved one, and that seemed to only trample on his ego more. I could tell that he hated my attitude and the way I refused to accept I was wrong. He wanted an apology, and I just promised myself that I was never going to give him one. So Frederick grabbed a pillow and a blanket, and then he threw them out for me and locked himself in the bedroom so I couldn't come out. I mean, how messed up is that? He's the one that didn't want to sleep in the same room with me. Why did he have to pick me out like that? Wasn't he supposed to be the one that left the room? I decided to just forget about it and sleep in the guest room. The next morning, I discovered that Frederick left the house before I even woke up, and for the past 2 weeks, he's left the house before I woke up and came back when I slept. I just realized that he's been visiting anyone that cares to listen, and he's been trying to trample on my character and make me give in. I've gotten calls from some of my sisters and even my stepbrother. I mean, I don't get why he's telling them instead of telling me. If I've offended you too much, have a conversation with me. Stop trying to recruit people so that they can follow you and try paint me as the one who's wrong. I've gotten calls from his mother and siblings, and I know his mother is finally happy that the wrong girl her son married is finally showing her true colors. I heard that's what she's been saying around the house. I got so frustrated that I started writing this because I just needed to tell people. Frederick is frustrating me. It's actually annoying. It got worse today when I got a call from my parents. Both of them, especially my mother, have asked to see me, and I was supposed to be there yesterday, but I decided to go today. Now, I got carried away writing this, and I've noticed that time is not on my side anymore. I'll have to cancel and go tomorrow. Update. Well, my life gets more complicated, I guess. So, I spoke to my parents, and they told you husband visited them and told them I kissed another man. My father asked me if it was true, and I said yes. He asked me why I disrespected my husband, and I just told him that it was a truth or dare game, and Frederick dared me to play it. I didn't tell him the full story because I was aware that my father was looking for an opportunity to tell me how right he was about me marrying Frederick. My mother called me to the side and asked me what I planned on doing. I just told her I'd not let things get out of hand. I went back home and thankfully I found my husband there. I told him that we needed him. We should stop letting such things get. I'm the way of our marriage. I apologized for kissing another guy in his presence, and then I told him why I did what I did. It was Frederick's turn to speak up. He didn't apologize or take accountability for pushing me to the point I'd ended up in. Not once in his long speech did he take responsibility for taunting me and baiting me to attend parties and cobes when he was aware that I preferred not to. He didn't accept the fact that he was wrong for forcing me to participate too. And that was all I needed to know, that I had married a conceited and egoistic man, and I was not ready to go down that lane. Instead of trying to work things out, he told me he wanted to get a divorce because he was not ready to accept what I did. My husband just dumped me right in front of me, and then he went upstairs to his room and brought out divorce papers. Initially, I wanted to talk him out of it, but when I realized that he had the divorce papers ready for a while, and he refused to tell me and just waited to get an apology like he was entitled to it, I decided that it was in my favor to dump the fool. I never expected something like that to lead to a divorce. It's literally not that deep, lol. I should be angry too, but I never tried to raise my voice and paint him as the bad guy. I always respected him, yet he kept on pushing me to the wall. I signed the divorce papers and tossed it on the table. He already signed it, so all he needed to do was go give them to his lawyer. I asked him for the $300 I was supposed to have for taking the bait, but he refused and called me greedy. Well, I didn't care and still don't care. If he wants to be petty and divorce me for something that was both our faults, I'd be petty all I want. I told him to keep it anyway, and that I'd get it from the spousal support. During our divorce proceedings, his lawyer offered the house in turn for the spousal support, but I refused. I don't need his house. My father's house is not closed to me. I did get the spousal support, and I didn't settle for less. He wanted a divorce, and I gave him one. I didn't ask for the divorce, he did, and his reason is just stupid. I got fired from the restaurant instantly, but I don't care. Ego, what's to work for their ex anyway? My father hasn't kissed a chance to tell me just how right he was. In fact, I think he prayed for this lull. My mom is the one who didn't like the idea of her firstborn girl being the first to get divorced. According to her, she wished I'll get the first and last to get divorced and that it never happens again. I pray too, and I hope I don't marry another Frederick redesigned. To all the guys out there, don't bait your wife to a truth or dare game if you don't want her to do something that could potentially disrespect you. It's common sense. Did I learn my lesson? Yes, I did. I should have refused to take the bait. That's where I was wrong. I should have just asked for a divorce, because any man that puts unnecessary pressure and comparison on his wife is no man at all. The same goes for women. Well, I'm back to working for my father, so the sack letter Frederick delivered to me doesn't change a thing. By the way, Frederick, if you ever get to see this, just know that you are the biggest mistake I ever made. Period.